The man was tired. His eyes hurt after 2 hours of driving in the snow. It was a dark winter night with no moon, and the snow covered everything. "I'll never get there tonight," he thought. He came to a hill and put his foot on the brake, but the car didn't stop. It went down the hill and across the road. "Oh no!" he shouted, as the car went into the ditch and hit a tree. The man hit his head and face on the car window, and his nose began to bleed. He sat in the quiet car, too surprised to move. After a minute, he opened the car door and got out. Snow began to cover his clothes. He looked at his watch. It was 9:15. "What can I do?" he thought. "I can't stay here. I have to talk to her. I must find a phone and tell her what's happened. She'll be worried. And I must get my car out of the ditch. Will a garage be open tonight?" He looked around. He saw a light between the trees down a narrow road off to his right. "That looks like a hotel," he thought. The man took a suitcase from the back seat of the car and began to walk towards the light. Janie Foxwell walked from her car to the Grey Swan Hotel. She carried a suitcase in one hand. "It's only a small hotel," she thought. "I hope it's not expensive." She opened the hotel door and went inside. "Can I help you?" asked a boy behind a desk. He was about 16 years old. "My name is Stephen Morgan. It's my mother's hotel." "I need a room for tonight, please," Janie said. "I'm driving to Bristol to stay with a friend, but the weather is getting worse." Stephen Morgan smiled. "Perhaps the weather will be better tomorrow." "I don't have much money," Janie said. "I'm an art student at college." "You can have the small room on the top floor, number 12. It doesn't cost much, and it's a nice little room." Stephen gave Janie a key. "Will you put your name in the register, please?" He opened a book on the desk. Janie wrote her name in the register. "I'm really hungry. Can I get something to eat?" she asked. "Dinner was 2 hours ago," Stephen said. "But you can get sandwiches in the hotel bar." "Okay," Janie said. "Thank you." Janie carried her suitcase up the stairs to the top floor. She walked over to the door with 12 on it. It was a small room with a bed under the window. Janie dropped the suitcase on the floor and sat on the side of the bed. She was tired. "I'll phone Annie in a minute or two," she thought. "Then I'll get something to eat." She was going to stay with her friend Annie in Bristol. The city of Bristol was 60 kilometres away. There was a phone downstairs near the desk. Janie phoned her friend. "Annie? Hi, it's Janie. No, I can't get to Bristol tonight." "That's right. The snow has made the roads dangerous." "No, I'm staying at a hotel." "Perhaps I can drive to Bristol tomorrow." "Yes, I know. Don't worry, I'm okay. I'll phone you tomorrow morning. Bye." Janie put the phone down and walked across to the lounge bar. Just then, the hotel door opened and a man came in carrying a suitcase. His hat and coat were covered with snow, and there was blood on his face. "I know that face," Janie thought, "but where have I seen him before, and What's his name?" The man went across to the desk. "I want a room," he told Stephen Morgan. "Just for tonight?" Stephen asked. "Or will you be staying for the weekend?" "Tonight. And my car is in the ditch, 2 kilometers up the road. I need a garage." "I'll get my mother," Stephen said. The man was making him feel nervous. Mrs. Morgan came out of the little office a few moments later. "There's a garage in Copperthorne, the next village," Mrs. Morgan told the man. "I can phone it." "Please do," the man said. Mrs. Morgan looked at a board behind her, and she dialed a number. After a moment, she spoke to somebody. "And his car is in the ditch," she said into the phone, explaining. "Sorry, oh, I see. Thanks, Harry, I'll tell him." She put down the phone. "Well," said the man. "The garage owner won't come out tonight, not in this weather," Mrs. Morgan said. "It's too dangerous. I'll phone again in the morning for you." The man looked angry. "Just give me a room then," he said, taking off his coat. "The best room you have." "Room 9, Mrs. Morgan said. "It's a nice room with a bath. Can you put your name in the register, please?" The man wrote something in a register, and Mrs. Morgan looked at it. "Thank you, Mr. Todd." She gave him a key. "The room is on the 2nd floor." "Is there a phone in the room?" he asked. "Room 9 has a phone, yes. Good. Thank you," he answered. As Janie went into the hotel lounge, the angry man was walking past. There was a television on in the corner of the lounge, and a woman was reading the news. The man stopped by the door of the lounge and listened to the news. When the news finished, the man took his suitcase up the stairs to find his room. As he walked up the stairs, something fell from the pocket of his coat. "Excuse me," said Janie, but the man did not hear her. She went over to the stairs and picked up what he had dropped. It was a road map. Janie looked at it, then called out to the man more loudly, "You've dropped your map!" He turned around quickly and came down the stairs again. "Thank you," he said, taking the map from her. Then, without another word, he hurried up to his room. Janie went and sat at the bar in the lounge. The barman put some sandwiches and a glass of orange juice in front of her. She thought about the stranger. "Who is he?" she thought. "I'm sure I've seen him before, but where?" And then she remembered. He was a teacher at college, she thought. It was more than a year ago. He was one of the art teachers, but he doesn't remember me. Ben Todd picked up the phone in room 9. He could not make the phone call himself. He had to ask Mrs. Morgan or Stephen. "What number?" asked Stephen Morgan, downstairs. It wasn't a local call. The code was 0272. A minute later, he was talking to a woman. "I can't get there tonight," he told her. "But you must," she said. "It's dangerous for you." "I know that, but what can I do? The weather is bad and my car is in a ditch." "Where are you?" she asked. "I'm in a hotel near Copperthorne, about 60 kilometers away. What about—" "Everything is all right," he told her. "There's nothing about it on the television news. Now, don't worry. Nobody knows I'm here. Do you know where to come? She said. Yes, he said. I wrote it down. Somebody may see it. I wrote it so that nobody will understand it. Now, don't worry. I'll get there tomorrow somehow. He put the phone down and walked across to the window. He thought about the woman waiting for him. Don't worry, he told her, but he was worried, very worried. Janie woke up early the next morning and looked out of the window. The snow was deep on the road and in the hotel car park. Oh, no, I won't get to Bristol today, she thought, but I can't stay here for another night. I don't have enough money. Janie always needed money. She wasn't sure if she could stay at her art college because she needed more money. Her father had troubles with his business, so he couldn't help. She dressed and went downstairs to the dining room. Stephen Morgan came across to Janie's table with some coffee. Did you sleep well? He asked. Very well, thank you, Janie said. What would you like to eat? There's fruit, toast, or eggs. Eggs would be nice, please. There were people at most of the tables in the dining room. 2 women were sitting at the table next to Janie's. I have some important papers which must arrive at my office in London today, one of the women told Stephen. But what can I do? I'll never get there in all this snow. We have a fax machine that can send a copy of your papers to your office, said Stephen. Have you? Did you hear that, Judith? Miss Tate said to her friend. She looked very pleased. That's wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. Just then, Mr. Todd came into the dining room. He looked around for an empty table, found one, and went and sat down. He took a piece of paper from his pocket and looked at it. Stephen Morgan went across to him. The man folded the piece of paper quickly, but not before Stephen saw the writing on it. But he did not understand what he saw. My mother phoned Harry Selby about your car, Mr. Todd, he said. He'll get it out of the ditch later this morning. I need to go as soon as possible, the man said. I have a long way to drive. The roads are still bad because of the weather, Stephen said. Yes, of course, Mr. Todd said. Could you bring my coffee to the lounge, please? I want to hear the news on TV. Perhaps I can find out about the roads. Where are you going? Stephen asked. Mr. Todd looked up quickly. Why do you ask? Stephen's face went red. Here's the weather report about the snow on the roads. I'm going to Manchester, he said. He was angry. That's not true, Janie thought as she watched the man's face. I can see he's telling me a lie. Stephen knows he's telling a lie too, but why is Mr. Todd lying? Janie watched Mr. Todd leave the room. She was sure that he was the college teacher, but the man's name wasn't Todd. What was it? She finished eating her eggs. Then she went into the lounge and sat in a chair by the window. On the TV, a man was reading the news. Mr. Todd was sitting in a chair, listening carefully. Miss Tate was also watching TV with her friend Judith. Jenny looked out of the window at the snow. The hotel garden looked beautiful. So Jenny took a pencil and some paper from her handbag and began to draw. She listened to the news on the TV. A fire at the Hampshire home of Guy Christie, near the New Forest village of Kelstock. A man's body was found in the study. The police think it is Tom Wood, Mr. Christie's assistant. Money and diamonds are missing. Mrs. Linda Christie was not at the house. The police want to talk to Mrs. Christie and to Alex Hodder, who is an artist and lives in the village. He has a beard, dark hair, and brown eyes, and is about 40 years old. He's gone to meet Mrs. Christie, Miss Tate said to her friend. Don't you think so, Judith? Yes, Judith said. Do you think Alex Hodder took the money and diamonds and killed Tom Wood? Miss Tate said. It sounds as if he did, doesn't it? Judith said. But where do you think they are now? They can't have left the country, because the police look at all the passports. I think they must still be in Britain. I wonder where they are hiding. Just then, Stephen walked into the room. He watched the news for a minute and said, Kelstock isn't very far from here. Look at the map. He pointed to the map on the wall. Janie was watching Mr. Todd. He was listening to the two women and he looked worried. Why? Janie thought. She thought about Alex Hodder, an artist. Then she thought about Mr. Todd. If he was the college teacher, then he was an artist too. He taught art at the college until a year ago. The police say Alex Hodder has a beard, Janie thought. Mr. Todd doesn't have a beard, but perhaps he shaved it off. It doesn't take long to shave off a beard. And Mr. Todd's hair is dark and he looks about 40 years old. Mr. Todd was watching the television again. Janie began to draw a picture on her piece of paper. That's good. It looks just like him, somebody said from behind Janie. It was Stephen Morgan, looking at her picture. Shh, Janie said, smiling. I don't want him to know what I'm doing. Janie quickly finished her drawing as Mr. Todd got up from his chair and went out of the lounge. Just then, Janie saw something. Now I'm sure he started that fire, she thought. Do you know Mr. Todd? Janie asked Stephen. She followed the boy out of the lounge. They saw Mr. Todd go upstairs. I never saw him before yesterday, Stephen said. Why? I don't think his name is Todd, Janie said. Stephen looked surprised. What is it then? I don't know, Janie said. It might be Alex Hodder. Alex? Stephen stopped. But that's the man the police are looking for. It was on the television news. I know, Janie said. He watches the news carefully and he looks worried. He was worried when Miss Tate and her friend talked about the fire at Guy Christie's house. And he dropped a map from his coat pocket yesterday. I picked it up, and it showed the road to Bristol from the New Forest. Guy Christie lives in the New Forest. Stephen thought for a minute. He phoned somebody in Bristol last night, he said. It was a woman. Who? Janie asked. I don't know, but remember, nobody has seen Guy Christie's wife for a week. That's what the TV news said. She could be in Bristol. And perhaps he was phoning her, Jenny said. He may be going to Bristol to meet her. He said he was going to Manchester, Stephen said. But I'm sure that was a lie. So am I, Jenny said. And I may be wrong, but I'm sure Mr. Todd was a teacher at my college until last year. Then he left suddenly. Alex Hodder is an artist. It said on the television, Stephen said. Yes, Janie said. And the teacher at my college was an artist. Shall we phone the police? Stephen said. I don't know, Janie said. We may be wrong. Just then, Miss Tate came out of the lounge. Can I use your fax machine for my papers, Stephen? She asked. Yes, Stephen said. Come into the office. Janie watched them go into the office behind the hotel desk. She saw Miss Tate using the fax machine. She looked at the sketch pad in her hand. The face of Mr. Todd looked up at her. But was it Mr. Todd or was it Alex Hodder? One person would know, she thought. Then she smiled slowly. Ben Todd looked out of the window in his room. How long before I can leave here? It was snowing again. The roads would be dangerous. He wanted to phone Bristol again, but he was worried about Stephen Morgan. He thought he might listen to the phone call down in the office. He took a piece of paper from his pocket and dropped it on the bed. It was the same piece of paper that Stephen saw at breakfast. The police are looking for Alex Hodder now, he thought. The snow will make it difficult for them. They won't come here. He sat in a chair by the window and closed his eyes. He was very tired. After a few minutes, he was asleep. He woke up an hour later. What was that noise? It was somebody knocking loudly on his bedroom door. Mr. Todd opened the door and saw a man. Behind him was a boy and a girl. He knew the boy was the son of the owner. He wasn't sure about the girl. What do you want? He asked the man. I'm Detective Sharp, the man said, pushing his way into the room. He looked around quickly. And I have some questions I want you to answer. Do you know Guy Christie? What do you know about the fire at Guy Christie's house? How did it start? Who was the man killed in the fire? And I know the diamonds and money are in this room. Where are they? I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Todd said. Janie and Stephen followed the policeman into Mr. Todd's room. We know who you are, the policeman said. He looked back at Janie. This young person drew a picture of your face. Her name is Janie. Do you remember her? She was a student of yours. Mr. Todd looked at Janie. I don't know her, he said. She thought you might be Alex Hodder, the policeman said. So she used the fax machine to send a copy of her picture to Mr. Christie. Mr. Christie saw the picture and knew who the man was, so he phoned the police. That's why we're here. I'm not Alex Hodder, Mr. Todd said. The policeman smiled. We know that now. Alex Hodder is dead. He was the person killed in the fire, not Tom Wood. You are Tom Wood. You want everybody to think that Tom Wood was killed in the fire. You want us to look for Alex Hodder, not Tom Wood. But Mr. Christie saw Janie's picture. Now he knows it is Tom Wood who is running away. He knows it is Tom Wood who has the money and diamonds and who killed somebody in the fire at his house. And he thinks that Tom Wood may be going to meet Mrs. Christie. Look, said Stephen. There are the diamonds and the money. They're in his coat pocket. Ah, said the detective. These diamonds and the money belong to Mr. Christie. Where is Mrs. Christie? I don't know, Tom Wood said. You're lying. Detective Sharp said. "Tell me where she is." Tom Wood said nothing. "Wait," Stephen said. He saw the piece of paper on the bed and picked it up. "He looked at this at breakfast, and I saw it. I couldn't understand what it said then, but now I can. If you want to find Mrs. Christie, you should read it." Detective Sharp looked surprised, but he read the piece of paper. After a minute or two, he smiled. "Very clever," he said. Later, the detective came back to talk to Janie. "Tom Wood isn't his real name," he told Janie, Stephen, and Mrs. Morgan. "We found his passport in his suitcase. The name on the passport is Tim Barron." "That was the name of the teacher," Janie said. "Now I remember." Detective Sharp smiled. It was a clever idea to send his picture over the fax machine to Mr. Christie. Tim Barron lost his job at the college because he stole some money, he explained. So he changed his name to Tom Wood. Mr. Christie gave him a job. Was Tim Barron going to meet Mrs. Christie? Janie asked. "Yes," the detective said. "Mrs. Christie is in Bristol, at the address on the piece of paper. Barron phoned her last night. She's waiting for him there. She thinks he's coming with the money and diamonds, but it will be a policeman who calls on her." "Why did Tim Barron kill Alex Hodder?" Janie asked. "He went into the study and saw Mr. Barron taking the diamonds and money from the safe. So Barron killed him and decided to make Hodder look like Tom Wood. Barron was wearing a ring. He put it on Hodder's finger. Then he started a fire in the study. After the fire, Mr. Christie saw the ring and thought the dead man was Tom Wood, so we began looking for Alex Hodder. Then Mr. Christie got Janie's picture." Stephen said, "Yes," Sharp said, smiling at the two young people. "He thinks you're a good artist, Janie." "I may be one day," Janie said, "if I can get enough money to stay at college." "You'll have lots of money soon," he said. "Mr. Christie's decided to give you a reward." "A reward?" Janie said. "How exciting! And all because of a picture." "A very important picture," the detective said, smiling. Thank you for watching.